Blood dripped from Maya Reyes's split lip onto the concrete floor. 3 men stood over her laughing. "Transfer request tomorrow, college girl, or this gets worse." They walked away, certain they'd broken another woman. They had no idea she was smiling through the blood. No idea she'd just captured everything on the phone hidden in her pocket. No idea that the 22-year-old administrative assistant they'd just assaulted was a Navy SEAL with a black belt and a mission to destroy them. Fort Meridian, Arizona. Summer. Where predators hunted without consequences until now. Before we begin, subscribe to our channel and follow Maya's story to the very end. Comment your city below so I can see how far this story travels. The unmarked sedan rolled through Fort Meridian's main gate at exactly 0847 hours. The guard barely glanced at the paperwork before waving them through. Why would he look twice? The passenger was just another administrative support specialist, young, female, forgettable. Maya Reyes handed back her ID and said nothing. The driver, a Navy logistics officer who had no idea who he was transporting, tried to make conversation. "First time at Meridian?" "Yes." "It's not bad. Hot as hell, but the chow's decent. You'll be in Building 9, admin and logistics." "Thank you." He gave up after that. Some people just didn't want to talk. Maya watched the base unfold through tinted windows. Marines jogging past the motor pool, contractors smoking near the equipment bay. A cluster of personnel in PT gear heading toward what looked like an obstacle course. Everything normal. Everything routine. Everything exactly the kind of environment where harassment thrived in shadows. She knew this place. Not this specific base, but places like it. She'd spent 3 years operating in environments where being female meant proving yourself twice as hard for half the credit, where silence was expected and complaints disappeared into bureaucratic black holes. 3 women had filed harassment complaints at Fort Meridian in the past year. All 3 had transferred out within weeks. All 3 complaints had been closed due to insufficient evidence. Naval Special Warfare Command didn't believe in coincidences. Neither did Maya. The sedan stopped outside Building 9. Maya stepped out carrying a single rucksack and a weathered notebook that had seen better days. The notebook looked ordinary. Faded cover. Dog-eared pages. The kind of thing an administrative assistant might use for inventory lists. It wasn't for inventory lists. Maya had carried notebooks like this through 3 years of SEAL operations, through training at Coronado, through deployments in places the Navy preferred not to name. The difference was that those notebooks had contained tactical information. Enemy positions, entry points, extraction routes. This one would document a different kind of target. Building 9 smelled like industrial cleaner and old coffee. The admin clerk behind the front desk looked up as Maya entered. Petty Officer 2nd Class Amanda Torres had processed enough new arrivals to recognize the type. Young Quiet probably wouldn't cause trouble. "Maya Reyes," Maya said, sliding her orders across the desk. "Reporting as assigned." Torres scanned the paperwork. Her eyes caught on something. She blinked. "You're assigned to logistics support, equipment tracking, and inventory management. Affirmative." Torres's expression carried a question she didn't quite ask. "We don't usually get... you're young for this kind of assignment." 22. "Is that a problem?" No, just making conversation." Torres processed the assignment without further comment. She handed Maya a keycard and a base map with her barracks location circled in red marker. "3rd floor private room. Chow hall's open until 2100. Any questions?" "Negative." Torres watched Maya leave with the same expression she'd give anyone who seemed slightly off script. But not enough to worry about. Another body, another assignment, another week at Fort Meridian, where nothing interesting ever happened. The barracks room was exactly what Maya expected. 2 bunks, 2 wall lockers, 1 small desk, 1 narrow window overlooking the vehicle maintenance yard. No roommate currently assigned. Privacy. Privacy meant freedom to work. She set her rucksack on the far bunk, the one positioned so she could see the door from where she'd sleep. Old habits. SEAL habits. The kind of automatic tactical awareness that became as natural as breathing. The notebook went in her cargo pocket. Always accessible. Always ready. Maya pulled off her oversized glasses and set them on the desk. She didn't need them. The prescription was fake. Just another layer of the cover. Make her look bookish. Unthreatening. Like someone's kid sister who'd wandered onto a military base by accident. She examined her hands in the afternoon light. Knuckles scarred from 3 years of hand-to-hand combat training. Calluses layered like geological strata. Each one representing hundreds of hours gripping weapons, climbing ropes, executing throws and holds until the movements became muscle memory deeper than conscious thought. These weren't office hands. These were operator hands. She pulled her sleeves down, covered the small black trident tattooed on her right wrist. Better to keep that hidden. Better to let people make their assumptions. At 1400 hours, Maya reported to the logistics office in Building 9 for her orientation briefing. The office was cramped, cluttered with filing cabinets and outdated computer equipment. 3 other personnel worked at desks arranged in a loose semicircle. The supervisor, a civilian contractor named Gerald Hoffman, barely looked up from his computer when she entered. "You're the new inventory specialist." "Yes, sir." "Don't call me sir. I'm not military. Just Gerald." He gestured vaguely at an empty desk in the corner. "That's yours. Computer login information is in the top drawer. You'll be tracking equipment across the training facilities. Quarterly reports due at the end of each month." "Understood. Any questions? Where are the training facilities located?" Gerald finally looked at her. Really looked. His expression shifted slightly. Surprise, maybe, at how young she was. How small. "Buildings 12 through 16. But you don't need to go there. Everything's tracked digitally. You can do it all from your desk." "I prefer to conduct physical inventory verification when possible." "That's thorough," he shrugged. "Whatever works. Just don't get in anyone's way. The contractors who run the tactical training programs don't like interruptions." "I'll be invisible." Gerald almost smiled. "Good. That's the right attitude around here." Maya spent the next 2 hours learning the inventory system, memorizing equipment codes, mapping facility layouts, building a mental picture of Fort Meridian that had nothing to do with logistics and everything to do with intelligence gathering. At 16:30 hours, she walked to Building 12 for her first physical inventory check. The building housed the primary tactical training center, weight room, combat simulation areas, equipment storage bays, the kind of facility where operators trained and support personnel were tolerated but not welcomed. Maya entered through the main doors and immediately felt eyes on her. 3 men stood near the equipment cage, engaged in conversation that stopped the moment she appeared. They wore contractor uniforms, private security patches, the kind of personnel who existed in that gray area between military and civilian that made accountability complicated. The tallest one stepped forward. Red hair, Irish features, swagger that outpaced his actual position by about 3 pay grades. "Help you with something. Equipment inventory verification. I need access to the storage bay." He looked her up and down with the kind of assessment that had nothing to do with professional evaluation. "You're the new admin girl, Maya Reyes, logistics support." "Dylan Cross." He didn't offer his hand. "I run tactical training here. Storage bays off limits during training hours. I can come back later." "You do that." He turned back to his companions. Conversation resumed. Dismissal complete. Maya noted everything. Cross's body language, the way the other two deferred to him, the casual contempt in his voice. She pulled out her notebook, wrote 16:35 hours. Building 12. Initial contact. Subject identified as Dylan Cross. Hostile reception. Pattern monitoring advised. She left without another word. At 1800 hours, Maya entered the chow hall. The facility was crowded. Marines clustered at their tables. Navy personnel scattered among the contractors. Everyone segregated by invisible tribal boundaries that had nothing to do with regulations. Maya filled her tray with the efficiency of someone who'd eaten military food in worse conditions. Grilled chicken, steamed vegetables, white rice, water, nothing that would slow her down or cloud her judgment. She scanned the room, found a table in the back corner, one seat facing the entrance. She took it. Always take the seat that lets you see who's coming. She ate alone, watched the room, catalogued faces, identified the loud ones, the quiet ones, the leaders, the followers, observed body language, noted who laughed too hard at jokes that weren't funny. 15 minutes. That's all she allowed herself. Any longer, and people started noticing. Any shorter, and you looked nervous. As she stood to clear her tray, she heard it. "Hey, college girl." Maya turned. Dylan Cross stood 3 tables away, surrounded by his companions. The same 2 from the equipment bay, plus 4 others who'd gathered like satellites around a planet. "Yeah, you? The admin pogue with the clipboard." She waited. Said nothing. "Word of advice." Cross's voice carried across the chow hall. Deliberate. Meant to be heard. "Stay in your lane. Inventory tracking doesn't require physical verification. Do your job from your desk. Stop wandering into places you don't belong." 40 people were watching now, waiting for her response. Maya let the silence stretch for 3 seconds. Then, "Thank you for the feedback, Sergeant Cross." She turned and walked to the tray return. Steady pace, no rushing, no fear. Behind her, laughter. Cross's voice quieter now, but still audible. "College girl, probably can't even do a push-up, and they send her to inventory combat equipment." More laughter. The sound of men bonding over shared contempt. Maya made note of it in her notebook once she was back in her barracks room. 18 and 13 hours. Chow hall. Public verbal harassment. Subject Cross. 7 witnesses minimum. Pattern consistent with previous complaints. Escalation probability high. This was how it always started. The watching. The assessment. The testing to see if you'd react. If you'd show fear. If you'd give them the opening they needed to escalate. She'd seen it before, in training, in the fleet, in combat zones where women were supposed to be support personnel and nothing more. The difference was that this time she wasn't a junior sailor trying to survive. She was a chief petty officer with 3 years of SEAL operations behind her. With a black belt earned through 2,000 hours of training, with a mission from Naval Special Warfare Command itself. This time she was documenting everything. This time when they made their move, she'd be ready. At 2100 hours, Maya's phone buzzed. Encrypted message from Commander Patricia Vance, her handler at NAVSW Command. Status report. Maya typed her response. On station. Initial contact with primary subject, Dylan Cross. Matches behavioral profile from previous complaints. Escalation likely within 72 hours. Document everything. Do not engage unless absolutely necessary. Understood. Maya. The next message took longer to arrive. This one's personal for you, I know that. Don't let it compromise the mission. Maya stared at the screen. Commander Vance was right. This was personal. 2 years ago, Maya's younger sister Elena had been stationed at a training facility in Texas. She'd filed a harassment complaint against her supervisor. Within 3 weeks, she'd been transferred to a dead-end assignment. Her complaint had been closed. Insufficient evidence. Elena had left the army 6 months later. She didn't talk about what happened. But Maya had seen the light go out of her eyes, had watched her sister, who'd dreamed of military service since childhood, walk away from everything she'd worked for. Because the system had failed her. Because documentation disappeared. Because complaints were buried. Because predators protected each other. Maya typed, "Mission first, always." She put the phone down, lay back on her bunk, stared at the ceiling. Tomorrow would bring more observation, more documentation, more maintaining cover while building a case that couldn't be ignored. But tonight she allowed herself to remember why she'd accepted this assignment. Elena's voice the last time they'd talked about it. I just wanted someone to believe me, someone to stand up, someone to make it matter. Maya had promised herself she would be that someone. Not for Elena, it was too late for that. But for every woman who came after, for every complaint that deserved to be heard, for every victim who'd been silenced. She closed her eyes. Day 1 complete. The mission was just beginning. At 05:30 the next morning, Maya was already awake, already dressed, already conducting her second walkthrough of the base layout while most personnel were still sleeping. She walked the perimeter, noted camera placements, identified which areas had coverage and which had blind spots, memorized patrol schedules, located emergency exits, fire alarm stations, electrical panels, not because she expected trouble, but because knowing the terrain gave you advantages other people didn't have. At 700, she reported to Building 9 for her regular duties. Gerald assigned her to a stack of quarterly reports that needed reconciliation. Mind-numbing work. Perfect cover. Maya spent the morning at her desk processing paperwork while monitoring the facility through the window. At 1100 hours, she took her lunch early and walked to Building 14. Secondary training facility. The one where, according to facility records, all 3 previous complainants had been assigned. The building was quieter than 12. Smaller. More isolated. Maya entered through the side door. The equipment storage area was unlocked. She began her inventory check, moving systematically through the racks, photographing serial numbers, logging discrepancies. She was deep in the third aisle when she heard footsteps. You again. Dylan Cross stood at the end of the row. Alone this time. No audience. Inventory verification, Sergeant Cross. Standard procedure. I told you yesterday, stay in your lane. Equipment tracking is my lane. He walked closer. Slowly. Deliberately. Closing distance. Let me explain something, college girl. This facility operates on respect. You earn respect by proving you belong. You don't belong. You're admin. You're temporary. You're nobody. Maya met his eyes. Level stare. No fear. No anger. Just assessment. I'm doing my job, Sergeant. Your job is whatever I say it is when you're in my building. This building belongs to the United States Navy. Your authority here is limited to training operations. Something flickered in Cross's expression. Surprise, maybe. He wasn't used to pushback. You've got a mouth on you. I've got a job to do. He stepped closer. Close enough that she could smell his cologne. Close enough that it violated every standard of professional distance. Jobs can change. Assignments can be modified. People who don't fit in tend to transfer out. Happens all the time. Is that a threat, Sergeant? That's advice. Take it or leave it. He held her gaze for 5 seconds. Then he turned and walked away. Maya waited until his footsteps faded. Then she pulled out her phone and typed a quick note. 127 hours. Building 14. Verbal intimidation. Subject Cross. No witnesses. Implicit threat regarding assignment modification. Pattern consistent with previous incidents. She finished her inventory check. Every serial number logged. Every photograph taken. Every piece of evidence preserved. When she returned to Building 9, Petty Officer Torres was waiting at her desk. Maya, someone was asking about you. Who? Didn't give a name. Contractor. Tall guy, red hair. Wanted to know your background. Where you came from. Why you were assigned here. What did you tell him? Nothing. I don't share personnel information with contractors. Torres lowered her voice. But you should know. That guy Cross, he's got connections. His boss plays golf with the base commander. People who've had problems with him tend to disappear. Disappear. Transfer out. Suddenly, without explanation. Torres glanced around, making sure no one was listening. 3 women in the past year. All of them worked in areas where Cross operated. All of them filed complaints. All of them are gone now. Maya nodded slowly. Thank you for telling me. I'm not telling you anything. Torres returned to her desk. I'm just making conversation. But her eyes said something different. Her eyes said, be careful. You're not the first. Don't become another statistic. Maya returned to her paperwork. But her mind was working. Cross was already investigating her. Already trying to find weaknesses. Already preparing to neutralize a threat he didn't fully understand. He had no idea what he was dealing with. At 1400 hours, Maya received a visitor. The woman who appeared in the logistics office doorway was in her mid-40s. Master Sergeant stripes on her uniform. Combat medic insignia. The kind of weathered competence that came from decades of service. You're the new inventory specialist. Yes, Master Sergeant. Elena Vasquez. She didn't offer to shake hands. Just studied Maya with eyes that had seen too much to be fooled by surface appearances. Walk with me. It wasn't a request. They walked in silence through the admin building out the side entrance across the compound toward the medical facility. Vasquez didn't speak until they were well away from any buildings. You're not here for inventory. Maya kept her expression neutral. I'm not sure what you mean, Master Sergeant. I've been stationed here for 4 years. I've seen observers come and go. I know what real admin personnel look like. Vasquez stopped walking, turned to face her. And I know what operators look like even when they're trying to hide it. Silence. Your hands, Vasquez continued. You keep your sleeves pulled down. But I saw them when you were eating in the chow hall. Scarred knuckles. Fighter's calluses. Those aren't inventory hands. Maya said nothing. Cross is already asking about you, running his mouth to anyone who'll listen. College girl doesn't belong here. College girl should transfer out. I've heard this story before, 3 times in the past year. What happened to the others? Vasquez's expression hardened. They left, filed complaints that went nowhere, got reassigned to dead-end postings, careers ruined. She paused. Or they stopped filing complaints, learned to stay quiet, accepted the harassment as the price of being female in a combat environment. And you, I'm senior enough and valuable enough that they leave me alone. Mostly. Vasquez studied Maya's face. But you're young. You're new. You're exactly the kind of target Cross prefers. So I'm going to ask you once, what are you really doing here? Maya made a decision. Fast. The kind of split-second tactical assessment that 3 years of SEAL operations had burned into her reflexes. Vasquez wasn't a threat. Vasquez was a potential ally. I'm here to observe and document, nothing more. Observe what? Patterns. The same patterns you've noticed. The ones that made 3 women disappear. Vasquez was quiet for a long moment. Then, you're from NCIS IG. Naval Special Warfare Command. Undercover intelligence gathering. I can't tell you more than that. You're SEAL. Maya didn't confirm. Didn't deny. Vasquez nodded slowly. Cross has no idea what he's dealing with. That's the idea. He's going to escalate. He always does. Verbal harassment first, then isolation, then physical intimidation. If that doesn't work, Vasquez trailed off. It gets worse. 2 of the 3 women who transferred had injuries. Training accidents. That's what the report said. But I treated them in the medical bay. Those weren't training accidents. Maya felt her jaw tighten. Did you document it? I documented what I saw, officially, through proper channels. Vasquez's voice carried bitterness. The documentation disappeared, just like the complaints, just like everything else. Who made it disappear? Base Commander's office, Captain Richardson. He's been here for 2 years. Same 2 years that the harassment spiked. Same 2 years that complaints started vanishing. Vasquez met Maya's eyes. Cross's boss plays golf with Richardson every weekend. Connect the dots. Maya connected them. Clear picture. Systematic cover-up. Institutional failure at the command level. Thank you, Master Sergeant. I'm not telling you anything. Same words Torres had used. Same meaning. I'm just making conversation with a new logistics specialist about base operations. Understood. Vasquez started walking again, back toward the main compound. One more thing, she said without turning around. Building 14, South Corridor. Camera's been offline for 6 months. Maintenance request keeps getting rejected. That's where the training accidents happened. Maya noted it mentally. Building 14, South Corridor, no cameras. The kill zone. Fair winds, Master Sergeant. Stay alive, college girl. At 1900 hours, Maya sat alone in her barracks room, reviewing the day's intelligence. 2 potential allies, Torres and Vasquez, both aware of the pattern, both afraid to act directly, both providing information through careful deniability. One primary target, Dylan Cross. Contractor status meant limited military jurisdiction. Golf buddy connection to base commander meant institutional protection. One confirmed cover-up. Captain Richardson. Base commander. The one making complaints disappear. One target location. Building 14 South Corridor. No cameras. Where violence happened without witnesses. She opened her encrypted communication app, typed a detailed report to Commander Vance, attached her documented observations, sent everything through secure channels. The response came within minutes. Pattern confirmed. Continue documentation. Primary objective, provoke escalation that can be captured on record. Secondary objective, identify the chain of cover-up. You have 72 hours before we reassess. 72 hours. 3 days to turn harassment into documented assault. 3 days to expose a system that protected predators. 3 days to build a case so overwhelming that it couldn't be buried. Maya stared at her reflection in the darkened window. 22 years old. Looked younger. The oversized glasses, the messy bun, the carefully cultivated appearance of helplessness. Behind that mask, something else entirely. She pulled up her sleeve. traced the small black trident on her wrist, the symbol that meant she'd survived everything the Navy could throw at her. Buddy S at 19 Hell Week, combat deployments, the constant grinding pressure of proving herself in a world that didn't think women belonged. She belonged. She'd earned her place, and she was going to make damn sure the women who came after her had a place too. Maya let her sleeve fall, covered the trident, became college girl again. Tomorrow she would escalate. Deliberately, strategically, push Cross's buttons until he made a mistake. Give him the opportunity to prove exactly what he was. And when he did, when he finally showed his true nature, she would be ready. Documentation was more powerful than confrontation. Evidence was more effective than anger. Patience, strategic patience defeated aggression every single time. Cross thought he was hunting her. He had no idea she was hunting him. The next morning came faster than Maya expected. She was in Building 12 at 0730, clipboard in hand, conducting what appeared to be routine equipment verification. What she was actually doing was mapping Cross's operation. She counted 6 contractors who answered directly to him, identified their patrol patterns, noted which Marines deferred to them despite the obvious chain of command violation. "College girl's back." The voice came from behind her. Marcus Webb, 25 years old, bald by choice, built like someone who spent more time lifting weights than learning technique. Maya didn't turn around. "Equipment verification is scheduled. Cross doesn't like you wandering around his buildings." "These aren't his buildings." Webb moved closer, close enough that she could feel his breath on the back of her neck. "Everything on this training side belongs to Cross. Equipment, schedules, personnel." Now she turned, met his eyes. "Personnel don't belong to anyone." Webb smiled, the kind of smile that made her skin crawl. "You've got attitude, college girl. I like that. Cross doesn't, but I do. Is there something you need, or can I finish my work? Just being friendly." He held up both hands in mock surrender. "Welcome wagon, making sure the new girl feels at home." "I feel fine." "Good, that's good." He started walking away, then stopped. "Oh, and Maya. That's your name, right, Maya?" She said nothing. Word of advice. Some of the equipment in the back storage area has been misplaced. Serial numbers don't match the inventory logs. Happens sometimes. Clerical errors. He smiled again. Smart inventory specialists learn to overlook clerical errors. Keeps everyone happy. Then he was gone. Maya stood very still for 30 seconds. Processing. Equipment discrepancies. Mismatched serial numbers. The kind of thing that usually meant theft, or black market sales, or both. She walked to the back storage area, found the section Webb had referenced, started checking serial numbers against her inventory log. 3 rifles missing, 2 sets of night vision equipment unaccounted for, body armor logged as damaged and disposed that showed no disposal documentation. This wasn't just harassment. This was criminal enterprise. Maya photographed everything. Serial numbers, empty rack spaces, documentation gaps, created a record that couldn't be disputed. Then she closed her notebook and walked out of Building 12 like nothing had happened. At 1100 hours, she found Vasquez in the medical bay. "Master Sergeant, got a minute?" Vasquez looked up from her paperwork, saw something in Maya's expression. "Outside." They walked to the same spot they'd used yesterday. Far from buildings. Far from ears. "I found something," Maya said quietly. "Equipment discrepancies. Missing weapons. Missing gear. The kind of gaps that don't happen by accident." Vasquez's face went still. "You're sure? I photographed everything. 3 rifles, night vision, body armor, All gone. All covered up with falsified disposal records. Cross. Has to be. He controls access to those storage areas. His people are the only ones with unsupervised entry. Vasquez was quiet for a long moment. Then, that's why the cover-up runs so deep. It's not just harassment. It's not just protecting a buddy. Richardson is protecting a criminal operation. The harassment is the enforcement mechanism. Women who notice discrepancies get pushed out before they can report anything. The three who transferred, they probably saw something, asked questions, got targeted for elimination. Vasquez closed her eyes. I knew it was bad. I didn't know it was this bad. I need to get this information to my command, but I also need more evidence. Direct connection between Cross and the missing equipment, something that proves Richardson knew and participated in the cover-up. How? I keep pushing, keep documenting, make Cross nervous enough that he makes mistakes. Vasquez grabbed Maya's arm, hard. You're talking about painting a target on yourself. The target's already there. Has been since day one. This isn't harassment anymore. If they're running equipment out the back door, they'll kill to protect that. You understand? They will actually kill you. Maya met Vasquez's eyes, held them. I'm harder to kill than I look. You're 22 years old. I was 19 when I completed BUDS, 20 when I deployed to my first combat zone, 21 when I killed my first enemy combatant in close quarters combat. Maya's voice was calm, level, the voice of someone stating facts. Age is just a number, Master Sergeant. Capability is what matters. Vasquez released her arm, stepped back. Something shifted in her expression. Respect, maybe, or fear. What do you need from me? Medical documentation. If something happens when something happens, I need you to record everything, officially, through channels. Don't let them bury it. They'll try. Then you try harder. Vasquez nodded slowly. I've got your back, college girl. God help me, but I do. Maya returned to Building 9 at 12:30. Gerald was waiting at her desk. Where have you been? Equipment verification, Building 12. For 3 hours. There were discrepancies. I had to double-check the records. Gerald's expression flickered. Worry. Maybe fear. Listen, Maya. I got a call this morning. From Captain Richardson's office. Maya's heart rate stayed steady. Training. What about? They wanted to know about your work habits, your access requests, where you've been going on base. Standard personnel review. This wasn't standard. The questions were specific. They wanted to know if you'd been in Building 14, if you'd accessed any restricted storage areas. What did you tell them? The truth. That you're doing inventory verification as assigned, that you go where the equipment is. Gerald lowered his voice. But Maya, I've been here 5 years. I know when the command office takes unusual interest in someone. It's never good. I appreciate the warning. This isn't a warning. This is me telling you to be careful. Whatever you're doing, whoever you're talking to, Richardson has eyes everywhere. Nothing happens on this base without him knowing. Maya nodded. Understood. But inside, she was recalculating. Richardson was already watching her, already suspicious. The timeline was accelerating faster than she'd anticipated. She needed to move faster. At 1400 hours, Maya walked into Building 14, the secondary training facility, the one with the dead camera in the south corridor. She didn't hide, didn't sneak. Walked straight through the main entrance like she had every right to be there. Cross was waiting. You've got some nerve, college girl. He stood in the center of the training floor, arms crossed, flanked by Webb and a third man she hadn't seen before. Tyler Briggs, 26. Quiet. The kind of quiet that meant he was smart enough to follow orders and dumb enough not to question them. Equipment verification, Maya said. Building 14 is on my schedule. Your schedule just changed. My schedule is set by Naval Logistics Command, not by contractors. Cross moved toward her. Slow. Deliberate. Predator stalking prey. See, that's your problem. You think rank matters here. You think procedures matter. You think your little clipboard and your little glasses and your little attitude mean something? He stopped 2 feet away. They don't. Nothing matters here, except what I say matters. Is that what you told the 3 women who transferred out? That nothing mattered except what you said? The words hit like a slap. Cross's expression froze. Webb shifted uncomfortably. Briggs stopped chewing his gum. What did you just say? Petty Officer Rodriguez, Specialist Carpenter, Seaman Chen, all assigned to buildings you control, all filed harassment complaints, all transferred within 30 days. Maya's voice stayed level. Clinical. That's quite a pattern, Sergeant Cross. You've been asking questions. I've been doing my job. Sometimes my job includes reading personnel files. Those files are restricted. My security clearance is higher than you might expect. Cross stepped closer, close enough that she could count the pores on his nose. Who sent you NCIS IG? Who? Naval Logistics Command. Equipment verification. As I've said repeatedly. Bull. Nobody sends a 22-year-old girl to verify equipment. Nobody assigns admin personnel to cross-check combat storage areas. You're here for something else. You seem paranoid, Sergeant Cross. Is there a reason you'd be worried about investigation? For a moment, she thought he would hit her right there. His fist clenched, his jaw tightened. The violence was right there, right beneath the surface. But there were windows. Other personnel visible outside. Witnesses. Cross unclenched his fist. Get out. I haven't finished my get out. Maya turned, walked toward the exit. Steady pace. No rushing. Behind her, Cross's voice. This isn't over, college girl. Not even close. She kept walking. Through the door, across the compound, all the way back to Building 9. Her hands didn't shake until she was safely in the bathroom with the door locked. Then, they shook hard. At 1900 hours, Maya skipped the chow hall. Too exposed. Too many eyes. She ate an MRE in her barracks room while reviewing her notes. The pattern was clear now. Equipment theft, harassment as enforcement, cover-up at the command level, a criminal enterprise hidden inside military infrastructure. But she still needed the direct connection, the proof that couldn't be denied. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She answered. Reyes, breathing on the other end, slow, deliberate. Then a voice she recognized. College girl, you should have taken my advice. Cross. How did you get this number? I told you. Nothing happens on this base without Richardson knowing. That includes personnel records, phone numbers, home addresses. Maya's blood went cold. Is this a threat, Sergeant? This is a reminder. You're alone here. No backup. No support. Just a little girl with a clipboard who wandered into something way over her head. I'm not as alone as you think. Vasquez, the medic who keeps warning you about me. Cross laughed. She's been warning women about me for 2 years. Hasn't changed anything. Won't change anything now. He knew about Vasquez. Knew about their conversations. Someone was watching. Someone was reporting. What do you want, Cross? I want you to transfer, voluntarily. Put in your request tomorrow. Cite personal reasons. Walk away before this gets ugly. And if I don't? Silence. Then, Building 14. South Corridor. No cameras. That's where accidents happen. College girl. Training accidents. The kind that end careers. Or worse. The line went dead. Maya stared at her phone. Then she opened her encrypted app and typed a message to Commander Vance. Cover blown. Cross knows I'm investigating. Threatening physical harm. Request guidance. The response came in 2 minutes. Maintain cover. Document threats. Continue mission. Backup available if situation escalates to critical. Continue mission. Maya set down her phone, looked at her scarred hands. She'd trained for this, prepared for this, knew the risks when she accepted the assignment. But knowing and feeling were different things. And right now, alone in a barracks room on a hostile base, she felt very small. Then she remembered Elena, her sister. The light going out of her eyes when the system failed her. Maya picked up her phone. Typed one more message. Mission continues. Will provoke escalation tomorrow. Prepare extraction if needed. She spent the next 2 hours in the empty motor pool, training in the shadows. Strikes. Throws. Submissions. Moving her body through patterns so ingrained they required no conscious thought. When she finally returned to her room, her hands had stopped shaking. Day 3 started with a lie. Maya reported to Gerald at 0730 with a manufactured excuse. Building 14 inventory incomplete. Sergeant Cross interrupted yesterday. Need to return and finish. Gerald looked at her like she'd lost her mind. After what happened yesterday, are you sure that's wise? Inventory verification is my job. If I don't complete it, the quarterly reports will have gaps. Maya people are talking. They're saying Cross has it out for you, that you should transfer before something happens. Do you think I should transfer? Gerald was quiet for a long moment. I think there are battles worth fighting, and battles that just get you killed. You're young. You have a whole career ahead of you. Why risk it here? Because if I don't, the next woman will face the same thing. And the one after her. And the one after that. Maya held his gaze. The only way it stops is if someone stops it. Gerald shook his head. You're either very brave or very stupid. Maybe both. She walked to Building 14 at 0800. This time she didn't enter through the main doors. She circled around to the side entrance, the one near the south corridor, the one with the dead camera. The corridor was empty, dim, industrial lighting that flickered at irregular intervals. Maya walked slowly, noting every detail. Door positions, alcove depths, distance to exits. This was where it would happen. If Cross decided to escalate, this is where he would do it. She pulled out her phone, opened the camera app, made sure it was recording video. Then she waited. At 0847, she heard footsteps. 3 sets, coming from the main training floor. Maya didn't run, didn't hide. She stood in the center of the corridor and turned to face them. Cross, Webb, Briggs. Just like she expected. You really are stupid, Cross said. Coming here after last night. I have equipment to verify. You have nothing. You're nothing. Just another woman who doesn't know her place. My place is wherever the Navy assigns me. Cross stopped walking. 10 feet away. Webb and Briggs spread out slightly. Flanking positions. Last chance, college girl. Request transfer today. Walk away from whatever you think you're investigating. Live your life. Or accidents happen. Cross pulled on a pair of black gloves. Training accidents. The kind that teach lessons. Maya's hand was in her pocket, finger on her phone screen, recording everything. You're threatening a Naval Chief Petty Officer. I'm offering career counseling. There's a difference. Chief Petty Officer? Webb laughed. She's admin support, barely qualified to sharpen pencils. Actually, Maya said, I'm assigned to Naval Special Warfare Command, Undercover Investigation Unit, and you're all being recorded." For 1 second, nobody moved. Then Cross lunged. He was fast. Faster than she expected. His hand shot out, grabbed her wrist, twisted. Pain exploded up her arm. Her phone clattered to the concrete floor. "Webb, get the phone. Get the—" But Webb moved forward, scooped up the device, looked at the screen. "Recording. She's got us on video." Cross's grip tightened. "Delete it." "Already done?" Maya felt her heart rate spike. They'd destroyed the evidence, her primary documentation. Gone. But they didn't know about the backup. The hidden camera she'd positioned in her glasses case that morning. The one sitting in the alcove 15 feet behind them, recording everything through a gap she'd calculated precisely for this purpose. "You should have listened," Cross said. His face was inches from hers. "Should have transferred out like the others." "What happened to the others, Cross? Rodriguez, Carpenter, Chen?" "They learned their lesson. You'll learn yours." He shoved her backward. Hard. Maya's back hit the concrete wall. The impact knocked the wind from her lungs. Webb stepped forward, grabbed her by the shoulders, slammed her again. "This is fun," Webb said. "I like the fighters. They're more interesting." "Enough." Cross grabbed her arm, started dragging her toward a utility closet at the end of the corridor. "We're going to have a conversation, college girl. A private conversation about respecting your superiors." Maya let herself be dragged. Let herself appear helpless. 3 more steps. 2 more steps. 1 more step. Then she moved. Her body dropped. Weight shifting down and sideways. Classic escape from a standing hold. Cross's grip broke. His momentum carried him forward into empty space. Before he could recover, Maya was on her feet, balanced, ready. "What the—" She hit him. Open palm to the solar plexus. The strike wasn't meant to injure. It was meant to create distance. Cross stumbled back, gasping. Webb rushed her, clumsy, unbalanced, relying on size instead of technique. Maya redirected his momentum. Simple hip pivot. He crashed into Briggs and they both went down in a tangle of limbs. Cross recovered, his face twisted with rage. "You're dead. You hear me? Dead." He came at her again, fists raised. Maya could have ended him. 3 years of SEAL close-quarters combat training. A black belt in Brazilian jiu-jitsu. She knew 17 ways to put a man on the ground and keep him there. But that wasn't the mission. The mission was documentation. Evidence. A case that couldn't be buried. So instead of fighting, she ran. She sprinted down the corridor, grabbed her glasses case from the alcove as she passed, and burst through the exit into bright Arizona sunlight. Behind her, Cross's voice echoed off concrete. "This isn't over. You hear me? This isn't over." Maya kept running. Past the motor pool, past the admin building, past startled personnel who stared at the disheveled woman sprinting across the compound. She didn't stop until she reached the medical bay. Vasquez looked up as she burst through the door. Saw her face, jumped to her feet. "What happened?" "They attacked me. Cross, Webb, Briggs, Building 14 South Corridor." Maya was breathing hard, adrenaline still coursing through her system. "I got away, but they destroyed my phone recording." "Are you hurt?" "Minor. They slammed me against the wall. Some bruising." Vasquez was already pulling on examination gloves. "Sit down. Let me document." "There's more." Maya pulled the glasses case from her pocket. Opened it to reveal the small camera inside red recording light still blinking. They didn't find the backup. Vasquez stared at the camera, then at Maya, then back at the camera. "You planned this." "I set conditions for it. There's a difference." "You let them attack you. deliberately provoked it. I provoked documentation of their behavior. What they did was their choice. Vasquez shook her head slowly. You're either the bravest or the craziest person I've ever met. Like I told Gerald, maybe both. Maya sat on the examination table. Let Vasquez photograph the bruises forming on her shoulders and back. Let her document everything in official medical records. This goes into the system, Vasquez said as she typed. Medical report, time-stamped. Command gets automatic notification. Good. I want them to know. Richardson will try to bury it. Richardson can try, but I've got video of his golf buddy threatening and assaulting a chief petty officer, and by tomorrow that video will be in the hands of Naval Special Warfare Command. Vasquez finished typing, looked at Maya with something like awe. You're not just documenting harassment, you're building a case for criminal prosecution. Equipment theft, assault, obstruction of justice, cover-up at the command level. Maya's voice was hard now, certain. This base is going to burn, Master Sergeant, and everyone who protected these predators is going to burn with it. What happens now? Now I send the video to my command, and then I wait. Wait for what? Maya's eyes went cold, the eyes of an operator preparing for the final phase of an operation. For them to make their last mistake. The video uploaded at 2147 hours. Encrypted transmission directly to Commander Vance at Naval Special Warfare Command. Maya sat on her bunk, watching the progress bar crawl across her laptop screen. Every second felt like an hour. Every percentage point felt like a small victory. Her phone buzzed. Vance. Video received. Reviewing now. Stand by. Maya stood by. She walked to the window. Looked out at the compound. Building 14 was visible in the distance lights, still on activity, still happening like nothing had changed. But everything had changed. The video showed Cross threatening her, showed Webb destroying evidence, showed the assault in the corridor. Clear, undeniable, time-stamped. Her phone buzzed again. Video confirms assault and destruction of evidence. Criminal charges pending. However, need direct connection to Richardson for command-level prosecution. Current evidence insufficient for full case. Maya typed back. Understood. We'll continue documentation. Negative. Situation too dangerous. Recommend extraction. With respect, Commander, I'm staying. Richardson is the key. Without him, Cross gets prosecuted, but the system stays broken. Next woman faces the same thing. Long pause. Then, your call, Chief. But backup is now on standby. Say the word and we extract within 2 hours. Understood. We'll advise if needed. Maya put down her phone. Her hands were steady now. The adrenaline had faded, replaced by cold determination. Cross would come for her. Tonight, tomorrow, soon. Men like him couldn't tolerate defiance, couldn't accept that a 22-year-old woman had escaped their control. He would escalate, and when he did, she would be ready. She didn't sleep that night. Instead, she prepared. At 2200 hours, she crept out of her barracks and made her way to Building 14. The compound was quiet. Skeleton crew on duty. Perfect conditions for reconnaissance. The south corridor was empty. She moved through it quickly, silently mapping every inch. Found the utility closet Cross had tried to drag her toward. Opened it. Examined the interior. Zip ties. Duct tape. A chair bolted to the floor. This wasn't improvised. This was prepared. A room designed for interrogation. For violence. For the kind of things that left scars and never made it into official reports. Maya photographed everything. Then she closed the door and moved on. She found something else in Building 14 that night. A locked office in the back section, Cross's name on the door. The lock was standard military issue. Maya had it open in 30 seconds. Inside note, she found what she needed. Shipping manifests, inventory adjustments, financial records showing payments to offshore accounts. The equipment theft wasn't opportunistic. It was systematic. Years of operation. Millions of dollars in stolen military hardware. And at the bottom of one file, a signature. Captain David Richardson, authorizing the disposal of equipment that was never actually disposed of. Direct connection. Proof of command involvement. Maya photographed every page. Then she replaced everything exactly as she'd found it and slipped back into the night. By 0400 hours, she was back in her barracks. By 0430, the new evidence was uploaded to Commander Vance. The response came at 0445. This changes everything. NCIS team deploying. Arrival estimated 48 hours. Maintain cover until then. 48 hours. 2 days of pretending nothing had happened while the walls closed in around Cross and Richardson. 2 days of being a target. Maya showered, dressed, and reported to Building 9 at 0730 like it was any other day. Gerald took one look at her face and went pale. Jesus, Maya. What happened? Training exercise. Got a little rough. You look like you haven't slept in a week. Just dedication to the job. Gerald didn't press, but his eyes followed her all morning with something that looked like grief. At 1100 hours, Maya's phone rang. Unknown number. Again. She answered. Reyes, you broke into my office. Cross. His voice was different now. Flat. Controlled. The voice of a man who had made a decision. I don't know what you're talking about. Security footage shows someone entering Building 14 at 0200. Someone small, female, wearing a Navy uniform. Maya's stomach dropped. She'd been careful. So careful, but not careful enough. I was in my barracks all night, Sergeant. We both know that's a lie. And we both know what you found in that office. Silence. Here's what's going to happen, college girl. You're going to meet me tonight. Alone. Building 14. 2100 hours. And you're going to tell me exactly who you've been talking to and what you've shared. And if I don't, then I'll assume the worst, and I'll act accordingly. The line went dead. Maya stared at her phone. Her hands were shaking again. Not from fear, from anger. He knew. He knew she'd found the evidence, knew she was building a case, knew everything was about to collapse around him. A cornered animal was the most dangerous kind. She typed a message to Commander Vance, cover completely blown. Cross knows about evidence collection, demanding meeting tonight 2100, requesting guidance. The response, do not attend. Too dangerous. Extraction team can be there in 6 hours. Maya thought about it. Thought about Elena. Thought about Rodriguez Carpenter Chen. All the women who'd been silenced. She typed, negative on extraction. We'll attend meeting. We'll document everything. This ends tonight. That's an order, Chief. Do not engage. Maya turned off her phone. Some orders weren't meant to be followed. She spent the afternoon preparing. Not weapons. Documentation tools. Secondary cameras. Backup recording devices. A Jeep's tracker sewn into the lining of her boot. If something went wrong tonight, they would find her. They would know exactly what happened and who was responsible. At 1800 hours, she found Vasquez in the medical bay. I need a favor. Vasquez looked up, saw Maya's expression. What kind of favor? If I'm not back by midnight, I need you to contact this number. She handed over a card with Commander Vance's direct line. Tell them everything you know. Don't let them bury this. Vasquez took the card. Her hand was shaking. What are you planning? I'm going to end this. Maya, you can't. 3 women were silenced before me, their complaints buried, their careers destroyed. I'm not going to be number 4. They'll kill you. They'll try. Maya met Vasquez's eyes. But I'm not the victim they think I am. I'm the one who's been hunting them. Vasquez stared at her for a long moment. Then she pulled Maya into a fierce hug. Come back alive. You hear me? Whatever happens in that building, you come back alive. I will. Maya walked out of the medical bay. The Arizona sun was setting, painting the compound in shades of red and gold. 3 hours until the meeting. 3 hours until everything changed. At 20s and 45 hours, Maya approached Building 14. She'd arrived early. Deliberately. Wanted time to set conditions before Cross and his men appeared. The side entrance was unlocked. She slipped inside and made her way to the south corridor. Empty. Quiet. The flickering lights casting shadows that danced across concrete walls. Maya positioned her hidden cameras. 3 of them this time. Multiple angles. Overlapping coverage. No blind spots. Then she stood in the center of the corridor and waited. 2100 hours came and went. 21:15. Maya's heart pounded. Where were they? Then she heard it. Not from the main training floor. From behind her. The utility closet. She spun around. The door was opening. Cross stepped out. Alone. No Webb. No Briggs. You're predictable, college girl. I knew you'd come early. Knew you'd set up your little cameras. He gestured at the walls. My men already collected them, while you were standing here like bait. Maya's blood went cold. They'd been watching. Waiting. Let her think she was setting a trap while they set their own. Where are the others? Handling something else. A distraction. Keeping the MPs busy on the other side of the base. What kind of distraction? Cross smiled. Fire. Nothing major. Just enough to draw attention. Gives us about 30 minutes before anyone notices you're missing. 30 minutes. Alone with Cross in a building with no cameras and no witnesses. What do you want? The same thing I've wanted since you got here. Compliance. Transfer request. Walk away. And if I don't, Cross pulled something from his pocket. A photograph. He held it up so she could see. Maya's blood turned to ice. It was a picture of her sister. Elena. Walking to her car outside her apartment in San Diego. Beautiful woman. Looks like you. Same dark hair. Same stubborn expression. Cross's voice was conversational. Casual. Be a shame if something happened to her. If you touch her, I won't touch anyone. I don't have to. I know people. People who owe me favors. People who can make problems disappear. He stepped closer. You're not the only one with resources, college girl. You're not the only one who can play this game. Maya's mind was racing. Elena. They knew about Elena. Had been watching her. What do you want? I told you. Transfer request. Leave Fort Meridian. Keep your mouth shut about what you've seen. Do that, and your sister stays safe. And if I've already reported what I found? Cross's expression flickered. Uncertainty. Then it hardened. Then I have nothing to lose. He moved fast, faster than she expected. His fist connected with her jaw before she could react. The impact snapped her head sideways. Stars exploded across her vision. She staggered back, caught herself against the wall. That's for breaking into my office. Maya tasted blood, felt her jaw throb with pain. But she didn't go down. "That the best you've got." Cross hit her again. Harder this time. An uppercut that caught her under the chin and lifted her off her feet. She hit the concrete floor. The back of her head bounced off the hard surface. For a moment, everything went white. When her vision cleared, Cross was standing over her. "I've broken tougher women than you. Rodriguez thought she was strong too. So did Carpenter. They learned." Maya pushed herself up on one elbow. Blood dripped from her split lip onto the floor. "What did you do to them? Taught them their place. Same thing I'm teaching you." He kicked her, square in the ribs. The impact drove the air from her lungs. She curled into a ball, gasping. Pain radiated through her chest with every breath. You know what your problem is. You think you matter. Think your little investigation matters. Think anyone cares what happens to women like you. Cross crouched beside her, grabbed her hair, forced her to look at him. "Nobody cares. Richardson doesn't care. The Navy doesn't care. The system doesn't care. You're just another statistic waiting to happen." Maya's hand moved. Slow, careful. Cross didn't notice. He was too busy enjoying his dominance. Her fingers found her boot, the hidden pocket she'd sewn into the lining. "You're wrong," she whispered. "What?" I said, "you're wrong." Her hand closed around the small device hidden in her boot. "I'm not a statistic. I'm not a victim. And I'm definitely not alone." She pressed the button. Somewhere on the other side of the base, a signal transmitted. GPS coordinates. Emergency beacon. The backup plan she'd arranged with Commander Vance before turning off her phone. Cross saw her hand move. Saw the small device. His expression shifted from confusion to rage. "What did you do? What did you do?" He kicked her again, and again, each impact driving pain deeper into her body. But Maya was smiling through the blood. "You have about 15 minutes before Naval Special Warfare backup arrives. They've been on standby since this afternoon, waiting for my signal." Cross's face went pale. "You're bluffing." "Am I? Check the main gate in about 10 minutes. See how many black SUVs come through." He stood there, frozen. The predator suddenly realizing he was the prey. Then he made his decision. "Fine. You want to bring in the cavalry? Go ahead. But by the time they get here, you won't be able to testify against anyone." He reached for his belt, pulled something free. A knife. Combat blade. The kind designed to kill quickly and efficiently. Maya's training kicked in. Adrenaline flooded her system, temporarily overriding the pain. She rolled, pushed off the ground, came up in a defensive crouch. Cross lunged. The blade sliced through the air where her throat had been a second earlier. Maya moved on instinct. 3 years of close-quarters combat training compressed into a single fluid motion. She caught his wrist, redirected the blade, stepped inside his reach where the knife was useless. Her palm connected with his nose. Cartilage crunched. Blood sprayed. Cross stumbled backward, screaming. The knife clattered to the floor. Maya didn't stop. Couldn't stop. He'd threatened Elena, threatened to kill her. This wasn't just mission anymore. This was survival. She swept his legs. He went down hard. Before he could recover, she was on him, her knee on his chest, her forearm across his throat. "Where are Webb and Briggs? Go to hell!" She pressed harder on his throat. "Where? Building 4, setting the fire." "And Richardson, is he involved?" "Richardson's been involved since the beginning. He takes 30% of everything we move. Maya filed the information away. Direct confession. Admissible if she survived. One more question. The women who transferred. Rodriguez, Carpenter, Chen. What happened to them? Cross laughed. Actually laughed, blood bubbling from his broken nose. What do you think happened? They're not going to testify either. The words hit Maya like a physical blow. Not transferred. Not silenced. Gone. You killed them. I didn't kill anyone. I just made sure they understood the consequences of talking. And when they wouldn't stop talking, he smiled through the blood. Accidents happen, college girl. Training accidents. Car accidents. All kinds of accidents. Maya's vision went red. Every instinct screamed at her to end this, to make him pay for what he'd done. But she was a SEAL, and SEALs maintained discipline even when everything inside them wanted to break. She pushed herself off him, stood, stepped back. Get up. Cross stayed on the ground. What are you going to do? Arrest me? I'm going to make sure you never hurt anyone again. Footsteps. Running. Coming from the main entrance. Maya spun. Two figures appeared at the end of the corridor. Webb and Briggs. They must have heard the commotion, come running to help their leader. Two of them. One of her. Cross still on the ground, but conscious. Bad odds. Maya shifted into a fighting stance. Pain screamed through her ribs. Blood dripped down her chin. Every breath felt like fire. But she didn't run. Well, well. Webb cracked his knuckles. Looks like college girl isn't as helpless as she pretends. Doesn't matter, Briggs said. 3-on-1. She's done. Maya's mind calculated angles, distances, attack vectors, the optimal strategy for surviving the next 30 seconds. Then she heard it. Rotors. Helicopter rotors. Getting closer. Webb and Briggs heard it too. They exchanged glances. Confusion turning to alarm. That's my backup, Maya said. Naval Special Warfare. They've been monitoring this base for days, and right now they're about to secure every exit. Webb's face went pale. She's bluffing. Am I? The rotors grew louder. Closer. The distinctive sound of a military helicopter preparing to land. Then from outside voices. Multiple voices, commands being shouted, the organized chaos of a tactical team taking control of a hostile area. Last chance, Maya said. Surrender now, or face whatever's coming through that door. Webb looked at Briggs. Briggs looked at Cross, still bleeding on the floor. Cross made the call. Run. Get to the vehicles. Get off base before they lock it down. Webb and Briggs bolted. Not toward Maya. Toward the back exit. Cross tried to follow, pushed himself up. Made it 3 steps before Maya caught him. She grabbed his collar, spun him around, drove her knee into his stomach. He doubled over, gasping. You're not going anywhere. The main door burst open. 3 figures in tactical gear weapons raised, moving with the precision of operators who'd done this 1,000 times. Naval Special Warfare. Everyone freeze. Maya raised her hands, slowly, deliberately. Chief Petty Officer Maya Reyes. Asset Identification Sierra 79er. This is my prisoner. The lead operator lowered his weapon slightly. Recognition in his eyes. Chief Reyes, we have the building secured. Medical team en route. The other 2, Webb and Briggs, they went out the back. Already being pursued. They won't get far. Maya looked down at Cross. He was curled in a ball, clutching his stomach, blood still pouring from his broken nose. This one's the primary target. Dylan Cross, contractor, running equipment theft operation with support from the base commander. He just confessed to involvement in the disappearance of 3 female service members. The operator's expression hardened. Understood. We'll take custody. Two of the tactical team moved forward, grabbed Cross, zip-tied his wrists behind his back. Maya watched them drag him away. The man who'd terrorized this base for years, the predator who'd thought he was untouchable. He wasn't untouchable anymore. The lead operator approached Maya. "Chief, you need medical attention." "It can wait." "Respectfully, Chief, it can't. You're bleeding from multiple wounds and your ribs are probably cracked." Maya looked down at herself. He was right. Blood covered her shirt. Her breathing was shallow, painful. The adrenaline was fading, and with it her ability to ignore the damage. "Fine, but I need to make a call first." She pulled out her phone, turned it back on. Ignored the 17 missed calls from Commander Vance. Dialed a different number. Elena answered on the second ring. "Maya. What's going on? I've had weird calls all day. People asking about you." "Elena, listen to me. I need you to leave your apartment right now. Go to the Navy base in San Diego. Tell them you're my sister and that Commander Patricia Vance is expecting you." "Maya, you're scaring me." "I know. I'm sorry. But I need you safe. Can you do that for me?" Silence. Then, "Yes, I'm leaving now." "Good. I love you." "I love you too. Maya, are you okay?" Maya looked at the corridor, at the blood on the floor, at the tactical team securing the area. "I will be." She ended the call, handed her phone to the lead operator. "Commander Vance needs to hear what happened. All of it." Then her legs gave out. The operator caught her before she hit the floor, shouted for the medical team. Maya's vision was going gray at the edges, pain and exhaustion finally overwhelming her ability to function. But she was smiling. Because she'd won, against Cross, against Richardson, against the entire corrupt system that had protected them. Documentation had defeated intimidation. Patience had defeated aggression. And one 22-year-old woman had brought down an operation that had been running for years. The last thing she heard before consciousness faded was the lead operator's voice on the radio. "Asset secured. Primary target in custody. Base lockdown complete. Mission success." Mission success. Maya closed her eyes and let the darkness take her. Maya opened her eyes to white light and the steady beep of medical equipment. For a moment, she didn't know where she was. The ceiling was unfamiliar. The smell was antiseptic clinical. Her body felt like it had been run over by a truck and then backed up over again. Then memory flooded back. Cross. The knife. The helicopter. The darkness. She tried to sit up. Pain exploded through her ribs. She fell back, gasping. "Easy, Chief. Easy." Vasquez appeared in her field of vision. Dark circles under her eyes. Hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. The look of someone who hadn't slept in days. "How long?" Maya's voice came out as a croak. 36 hours. You've been in and out. Mostly out." Vasquez poured water from a pitcher, held the cup to Maya's lips. 3 cracked ribs, severe bruising, mild concussion. You're lucky your skull is as hard as your personality." Maya drank. The water felt like heaven. "Cross. In custody. NCIS took him last night. He's not talking, but with the evidence you gathered, he doesn't need to. Webb Briggs. Caught trying to cross the border into Mexico. They're singing like birds, blaming everything on Cross." Maya closed her eyes. Relief washed through her, almost as powerful as the pain. "Richardson." Vasquez's expression shifted. Something complicated moved across her face. "That's where it gets interesting." Before she could explain, the door opened. Commander Patricia Vance walked in, followed by 2 men in suits that screamed federal law enforcement. Vance looked exactly like she sounded on encrypted calls. Mid-50s. Silver hair cut short. The kind of face that had seen everything and was no longer impressed by anything. Chief Reyes, you're awake. Commander, how are you feeling? Like I got hit by a bus. Maya tried to push herself up again. This time Vasquez helped adjusting the bed so she could sit. But functional. Good, because we need to talk. Vance turned to the two men. This is Special Agent Morrison and Special Agent Chen, NCIS. They've been leading the investigation into equipment theft and the other matter. The other matter. The three women. Rodriguez, Carpenter, Chen. Did you find them? Maya asked. Morrison stepped forward. His face was grim. Chief Reyes, we found remains, 3 sets, buried in the desert about 40 miles from the base. Maya felt the words hit her like physical blows. She'd known. Part of her had known since Cross made his confession, but hearing it confirmed was different. How long? Forensics is still working, but preliminary estimates suggest the oldest burial was approximately 18 months ago. The most recent, about 4 months. 18 months. Rodriguez had filed her complaint 19 months ago. They were murdered because they reported harassment. They were murdered because they discovered the equipment theft, Morrison corrected. Same as you did. Cross and Richardson couldn't risk them talking. Maya looked at Vance. Richardson. What happened with Richardson? Vance's expression hardened. That's the interesting part. When the tactical team arrived to arrest him, he wasn't in his quarters. He ran. He tried. Got about 3 miles off base before his car was stopped by a roadblock. He's in custody now. But here's the thing. Vance paused. He's claiming he was coerced. Says Cross threatened his family. Says he had no choice but to participate. That's bull. Probably. But it's going to complicate the prosecution. Richardson has 30 years of service. Commendations. A clean record. His lawyers are already spinning a narrative where he's a victim, not a perpetrator. Maya felt anger building in her chest. Hot. Fierce. The kind of anger that made you want to break things. I have his signature on the disposal documents. I have evidence he was receiving payments. He's not a victim. He's a murderer. We know, and we're going to prove it. Vance sat down in the chair beside Maya's bed. But I need you to understand something. This case is going to trial. Multiple trials, probably. And you're going to be the star witness. I understand. Do you? Because being a witness means being cross-examined, means having defense attorneys pick apart every decision you made, every moment of this operation. I documented everything. The evidence speaks for itself. Evidence doesn't testify, you do. And when you do, they're going to try to destroy your credibility. Vance leaned forward. They're going to say you provoked Cross, that you manufactured evidence, that you were biased from the start because of your sister. Maya's breath caught. How do you know about my sister? I know everything about my operators, including why you took this assignment. Vance's voice softened slightly. Elena Reyes, harassed out of the army 2 years ago. Complaint buried, career destroyed. Same pattern, different base. That's exactly why you took this mission, and we both know it. The question is whether you let that motivation compromise your objectivity. Maya was quiet for a long moment. Then I followed procedure. I documented everything. I didn't plant evidence or manufacture incidents. Cross and his men made their own choices. I just made sure those choices were recorded. And the hidden cameras, the backup recording devices, the fact that you deliberately put yourself in danger to provoke an attack. Standard intelligence gathering, create conditions for the target to reveal themselves. It's textbook. Vance studied her face. Whatever she saw there seemed to satisfy her. Good. That's the answer you give on the stand. Don't deviate. Don't elaborate. Don't let them bait you into emotional responses. Understood. Morrison cleared his throat. Chief Reyes, we need your formal statement. Everything that happened from the moment you arrived at Fort Meridian until the tactical team secured you. Now, while the details are fresh. Maya looked at Vasquez. Vasquez nodded. I'll be right outside if you need anything. For the next 4 hours, Maya talked. She walked Morrison and Chen through every moment, every conversation, every piece of evidence she'd gathered, every threat, every assault, every word Cross had spoken in that corridor. When she got to the part about the utility closet, about the zip ties and duct tape, and the chair bolted to the floor, Morrison's face went pale. You're saying this was a prepared interrogation space? That's what it looked like. That's probably where they took the others, Rodriguez, Carpenter, Chen, before they killed them. Maya nodded, the words stuck in her throat. 3 women. 3 women who'd done exactly what she'd done, reported harassment, discovered the theft, tried to do the right thing. They'd ended up in shallow graves in the desert. She could have ended up there too. The thought hit her suddenly, viscerally. For a moment she couldn't breathe. The walls seemed to close in. Her heart raced. Sweat broke out across her forehead. Chief Reyes, are you okay? Maya forced herself to focus. Breathe in, breathe out, control. Fine, just give me a minute. She took that minute. Let the panic subside. Let her training reassert itself. Then she continued. By the time she finished, it was nearly midnight. Morrison and Chen had filled 3 legal pads with notes. The formal statement ran to 47 pages. Thank you, Chief, Morrison said as they prepared to leave. Your documentation is going to be critical to this prosecution. Without it, we might never have broken this case. Will it be enough to convict Richardson? Morrison hesitated. The equipment theft charges are solid. The assault charges against Cross are airtight. But the murder charges... He shook his head. We need to place Richardson at the burial sites. Need to prove he knew about the killings and participated or ordered them. That's going to be harder. Webb and Briggs are talking. Webb and Briggs will say whatever they think will get them the best deal. Their testimony is valuable, but not definitive. Morrison met her eyes. The truth is, Richardson might plead down. He might get 20 years instead of life. He might avoid the murder charges entirely. Maya's jaw tightened. That's not justice. That's the system. It's not perfect, but it's what we have. After they left, Vasquez returned. She looked even more tired than before. You should sleep, Maya said. So should you, but neither of us is going to. Vasquez sat down heavily. I've been thinking about what you said, back before all this happened, about being the someone who stands up. What about it? I should have been that someone. Years ago, when the first woman filed her complaint and I saw what was happening. Vasquez's voice cracked. I documented the injuries, I filed the reports, but I didn't push, didn't demand answers when those reports disappeared. I told myself I was being professional, following procedure. You did what you could. I did what was safe. There's a difference. Vasquez looked at Maya with something like awe. You walked into that corridor knowing what might happen, knowing they'd killed before. And you did it anyway. I had backup. Had. A backup that almost didn't arrive in time. Backup you weren't sure would come at all. Vasquez shook her head. Don't pretend it wasn't brave. Don't pretend you didn't risk everything. Maya was quiet for a moment. Then, I kept thinking about my sister, about the look in her eyes when she told me no one believed her. That look, it's haunted me for 2 years. Is that why you became a SEAL to fight back? I became a SEAL because I wanted to prove that women could do anything men could do, But I stayed a SEAL because I realized that capability means nothing if you don't use it to protect people who can't protect themselves. Vasquez reached out, took Maya's hand. You protected them. Rodriguez, Carpenter, Chen. It's too late to save them, but you made sure their deaths meant something. You made sure the people who killed them will face justice. If they convict Richardson, they will. I have to believe they will. The next morning, Maya had another visitor. Elena. Her sister burst through the door like a hurricane, tears streaming down her face, and practically threw herself onto Maya's bed. You idiot! You absolute idiot! You could have been killed! Maya hugged her back, ignoring the pain in her ribs. I'm fine. You have 3 cracked ribs and a concussion. That's not fine. I've had worse. When have you had worse? Bud's Hell Week, day 4. Elena pulled back, stared at her. You're insane. You know that, certifiably insane. Maybe. But I'm also alive, and the people who hurt those women are going to prison. Elena's expression softened. She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. I heard about what you found, about the 3 women She couldn't finish the sentence. I know. That could have been me, back in Texas. If I'd pushed harder, if I'd kept investigating instead of just filing a complaint and hoping someone else would handle it. Elena, don't. No, let me say this. Elena gripped Maya's hand hard. I've spent 2 years being angry, at the army, at the system, at myself for not being stronger. But you went into that base knowing exactly what you were facing, knowing they'd killed before, and you didn't back down. I almost did. There were moments when I wanted to run. But you didn't. No, I didn't. Elena was quiet for a long moment. Then, I'm proud of you. I know I don't say that enough. But I am. So proud. Maya felt tears building behind her eyes. She blinked them back. SEALs didn't cry, but sisters did. I did it for you. Partly. I did it for them, but I also did it for you. I know. Elena squeezed her hand. And that makes it mean even more. 3 days later, Maya was discharged from the medical bay. Vasquez cleared her with strict instructions about rest and recovery that Maya fully intended to ignore. She walked out of the building into bright Arizona sunshine. The base felt different now. Quieter. The normal rhythms of military operation had been disrupted by the investigation, by the arrests, by the constant presence of NCIS agents and JAG officers. Maya made her way to Building 9. Gerald was at his desk, looking like he'd aged 10 years in the past week. Maya. He stood when he saw her. I heard you were injured. I'm fine. Just wanted to clear out my desk. You're leaving. My assignment here is complete. Commander Vance is transferring me back to Coronado. Gerald nodded slowly. I knew something was wrong. With Cross, with the way things worked around here, I should have said something. You warned me, that first day. You told me to be careful. Warnings aren't enough. I've been here 5 years. 5 years of watching women get harassed and transferred out. 5 years of pretending I didn't see what was happening. His voice cracked. 3 of them are dead because people like me stayed quiet. Maya didn't know what to say to that, because he was right. Silence was complicity. Looking away was participation. You can do better now, she finally said. This base is going to be rebuilt. New command, new culture. You can be part of that. The only way the system changes is if people inside it demand change. You're inside it. Start demanding. She gathered her few belongings from the desk, the weathered notebook, a few personal items. Everything else belonged to the cover identity she'd left behind. As she walked out of Building 9 for the last time, she ran into someone unexpected. Private First Class Jennifer Hayes. Young, nervous. One of the junior personnel Maya had noticed watching everything with wide eyes. "Chief Reyes, can I talk to you for a minute?" Maya stopped. "Of course." Hayes glanced around, making sure no one was listening. "I just wanted to say thank you for what you did. I was doing my job. It was more than that. I've been here 8 months. I've seen how Cross operated, how he targeted women. I was starting to think," she trailed off. "Think what? That it was normal. That this was just how things worked. That if I wanted to have a career, I had to accept it." Hayes's voice hardened. "You showed me that was wrong. That it doesn't have to be this way." Maya studied the young woman's face. Saw something there. Determination. Resolve. The beginning of steel that would only get stronger with time. Remember this feeling? When you're tempted to look away. When someone tells you to stay quiet. When the system pressures you to accept the unacceptable. Maya met her eyes. Remember that change is possible. That one person can make a difference. That documentation and persistence and refusing to quit can bring down even the most protected predators. Hayes nodded. "I will, I promise." "Good." Maya started to walk away, then paused. "And Hayes, if you ever see something wrong, report it. Document everything. Don't assume someone else will handle it." "I won't, Chief." Maya walked toward the motor pool where her transport was waiting. Behind her, Fort Meridian continued its disrupted operations. Investigations, interviews, the slow grinding of military justice. But something had shifted. She could feel it. The silence had been broken. The pattern had been exposed. And for the first time in years, the women of this base might actually feel safe. At the motor pool, another surprise waited. Commander Vance stood beside a black SUV, arms crossed, expression unreadable. "Commander, I didn't expect you to still be here. I wanted to speak with you before you left." Vance gestured toward the vehicle. "Walk with me." They walked, away from the buildings, away from ears, the same pattern Maya had used with Vasquez what felt like a lifetime ago. "NCIS finished their preliminary report," Vance said. "Richardson is being charged with conspiracy to commit murder, along with the equipment theft and obstruction of justice charges. They found the connection. Webb broke completely yesterday. Gave up everything. Names, dates, how they selected targets, how they disposed of the bodies." Vance's voice was grim. Richardson wasn't just complicit. He ordered the killings, specifically told Cross to handle anyone who got too close to the truth. Maya felt something release in her chest, a tension she hadn't realized she'd been carrying. So, he'll go to prison. For good. For good. All 3 of them, Cross, Richardson, and at least one of the accomplices. Webb is cutting a deal for testimony, but he'll still serve significant time. Briggs is looking at 20 years minimum. Good. They walked in silence for a moment. Then Vance spoke again. "The families of the 3 victims have been notified. Rodriguez's mother, Carpenter's husband, Chen's parents." Maya's throat tightened. How did they take it? How do you think their daughters have been missing for months? They'd been told the women transferred cut off contact didn't want to be found. Vance's voice cracked slightly. Now they know the truth. It's devastating. But at least they have answers. At least they can bury their children properly. I should contact them. The families. You will, after the trial. Right now, your priority is recovery and preparation for testimony." Vance stopped walking, turned to face Maya. "You did good work here, Chief. Better than good. Exceptional. I was just following the mission. You went beyond the mission. You put yourself at extreme risk. You made tactical decisions that could have gotten you killed." Vance paused. "You also disobeyed a direct order when I told you not to attend that meeting." Maya met her eyes. "Yes, ma'am. I did." "Care to explain why?" "Because the mission required it. The evidence we had was strong, but not conclusive. We needed Richardson's direct involvement documented. We needed Cross to confess. The only way to get that was to force a confrontation. And if the backup hadn't arrived in time, then I would have handled it alone." Vance studied her for a long moment. "You're either the best operator I've ever trained or the most reckless." "Maybe both." A ghost of a smile crossed Vance's face. "Maybe both." She reached into her pocket, pulled out an envelope. "This arrived this morning, from the Chief of Naval Operations." Maya took the envelope, opened it, read the contents, then read them again. "This is a commendation for exceptional performance above and beyond the call of duty, and a promotion recommendation." Vance's smile widened. "Congratulations, Senior Chief Reyes." Senior Chief. At 22 years old, one of the youngest in naval special warfare history. Maya didn't know what to say. The words stuck in her throat. "You earned it," Vance continued. "Every rank, every commendation, every bit of recognition you're going to receive." She put a hand on Maya's shoulder. "Your sister would be proud. Your family would be proud. The 3 women whose deaths you avenged would be proud. It doesn't feel like victory. Not yet. It won't until the trials are over, until the verdicts come in, until you see Richardson and Cross led away in handcuffs knowing they'll never hurt anyone again." Vance squeezed her shoulder. "But it will feel like victory eventually, I promise." The SUV was waiting. Maya's transport back to Coronado, back to her unit, back to training the next generation of operators. But before she left, there was one more thing she needed to do. She walked to the medical bay, found Vasquez finishing her shift. "I'm leaving." Vasquez nodded. "I heard. Back to Coronado. Will you be okay here?" "The new command arrives next week. Captain Morrison from NCIS recommended someone with a clean record. Someone committed to changing the culture." Vasquez smiled slightly. "I've been asked to stay on, help with the transition." "You should. This place needs people like you. People like me who stayed quiet for too long. People like you who are ready to speak up now." Maya extended her hand. "Thank you. For everything. For the warnings. For the documentation. For having my back when it mattered." Vasquez took her hand, pulled her into a hug instead. "Thank you for showing me what courage looks like. For reminding me why I joined the Navy in the first place." She pulled back. "Fair winds, Chief? Or should I say Senior Chief?" Maya smiled. "News travels fast. On a military base, always." Maya walked out of the medical bay for the last time, climbed into the waiting SUV, watched Fort Meridian shrink in the rearview mirror. The base where 3 women had been murdered, where dozens more had been harassed, where a corrupt system had protected predators for years. The base where one 22-year-old woman had walked in with a fake pair of glasses and a weathered notebook and brought the whole rotten structure crashing down. Maya pulled out her phone, opened the Photos app, scrolled to the images she'd taken that first day. The serial numbers, the equipment logs, the evidence that had started everything. Then she scrolled to a different photo, one she'd taken the night before the final confrontation. Elena, smiling, safe, unaware of what her sister was about to face. Maya had done this for Elena, for Rodriguez and Carpenter and Chen, for every woman who'd ever been told to stay quiet, accept the harassment, not make waves. She'd proven that the system could work, that documentation could defeat intimidation, that one person armed with patience and evidence and an absolute refusal to quit could change everything. The SUV merged onto the highway. Arizona desert stretched endlessly in all directions. Behind her, Fort Meridian. Ahead of her, Coronado. And somewhere in between, a courtroom where she would testify, where she would face Cross and Richardson and tell the world exactly what they'd done. Maya closed her eyes, let herself rest for the first time in what felt like forever. The mission wasn't over. But the hardest part was done. 6 months later, Maya walked into the federal courthouse in San Diego wearing her dress blues, the Navy service dress uniform she'd earned through blood, sweat, and 3 years of proving that capability had no gender. The corridors were crowded. Reporters, families, military personnel. Everyone wanted to see the trial that had dominated headlines for months. United States versus Dylan Cross. United States versus David Richardson. The case that had exposed systematic corruption at Fort Meridian and sent shockwaves through the entire military justice system. Maya found her seat in the witness waiting room. She wasn't due to testify until the afternoon, but she wanted to be there when the verdicts came in. Wanted to see the faces of the men who'd terrorized that base for years when they finally faced consequences. Elena sat beside her. Her sister had insisted on coming, had taken a week off work, had driven down from Los Angeles the night before. "You okay?" Maya nodded, just ready for this to be over. "It will be, today." The door opened. Commander Vance entered, followed by Special Agent Morrison. Their expressions were unreadable. "The jury's back," Vance said. "Cross's verdict first, then Richardson." Maya's heart rate spiked. 6 months of waiting. 6 months of testimony and evidence and cross-examination. All of it coming down to this moment. They moved to the courtroom, took their seats in the gallery. The room fell silent as the judge entered. Dylan Cross sat at the defense table. He'd lost weight in custody. His face was gaunt, hollow. The swagger was gone, replaced by something that looked almost like fear. The jury foreman stood. "On the count of conspiracy to commit murder in the first degree, how does the jury find guilty?" Maya felt the word hit her like a physical force. She gripped Elena's hand, held on tight. "On the count of murder in the first degree, Maria Rodriguez, how does the jury find guilty?" "On the count of murder in the first degree, Sarah Carpenter, how does the jury find guilty?" "On the count of murder in the first degree, Jennifer Chen, how does the jury find guilty?" Guilty, guilty, guilty. 3 women, 3 lives, 3 verdicts that said their deaths mattered. Cross's face went white. His lawyers were already moving, whispering urgently, preparing appeals that would never succeed. The judge's voice cut through the murmur. "Mr. Cross, you have been found guilty on all counts. Sentencing will be held in 30 days. You are remanded to custody without bail." The guards moved forward. Handcuffs clicked into place. Cross looked back at the gallery as they led him away. His eyes found Maya. For 1 second, rage blazed across his face. The same rage she'd seen in that corridor 6 months ago. Then he was gone. Led away to spend the rest of his life in a federal prison. Maya didn't look away. She watched until the door closed behind him. "One down," Elena whispered. "One to go." Richardson's trial had run concurrently. Different courtroom. Same evidence. The prosecution had argued that he'd ordered the killings authorized, the cover-ups profited from the equipment theft for years. His defense had tried the coercion angle, claimed he'd been threatened by Cross, that he'd had no choice but to participate. The jury hadn't bought it. They reconvened in Richardson's courtroom an hour later. The atmosphere was even more charged. A base commander, 30 years of service, the kind of betrayal that shook faith in the entire system. Richardson sat at the defense table in his uniform. He'd refused to wear civilian clothes, claimed he was still a soldier even if the army had stripped his rank and honors. The jury foreman stood. On the count of conspiracy to commit murder in the first degree, how does the jury find guilty? Richardson's composure cracked. Just slightly, a tremor in his jaw, a tightening around his eyes. On the count of accessory to murder after the fact, Maria Rodriguez, how does the jury find guilty? On the count of accessory to murder after the fact, Sarah Carpenter, how does the jury find guilty? On the count of accessory to murder after the fact, Jennifer Chen, how does the jury find guilty? On the count of theft of government property, how does the jury find guilty? On the count of obstruction of justice, how does the jury find guilty? The verdicts kept coming. Guilty on every count, every charge, every accusation that Maya and the NCIS team had built over 6 months of investigation. Richardson stood for sentencing. The judge looked at him with something between disgust and disappointment. Captain Richardson, you took an oath to protect and serve. Instead, you became the very threat you swore to defend against. You enabled murder. You profited from theft. You destroyed the careers of innocent women and then helped cover up their deaths. The judge paused. Let the words settle. This court sentences you to life in federal prison without the possibility of parole. May God have mercy on your soul, because this court has none. Richardson's wife sobbed somewhere in the gallery. His children sat frozen, unable to process that their father would die behind bars. Maya felt no sympathy. Only satisfaction. Justice. Finally. After 18 months of murder and cover-up, after years of harassment that had driven countless women from the service, after everything Fort Meridian had represented, justice. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed, cameras flashed, questions shouted from every direction. Commander Vance handled the press. Maya stood to the side with Elena, watching the chaos. How does it feel? Elena asked quietly. I don't know yet. Ask me tomorrow. Maya. Elena turned to face her. I need to tell you something. I should have told you months ago. What? When you were in that hospital bed at Fort Meridian when I didn't know if you were going to wake up? Elena's voice cracked. I made a decision. What decision? I'm re-enlisting. Army. Officer candidate school. Maya stared at her. You're what? I let them drive me out. Let them win. Spent 2 years being angry and broken and convinced I didn't belong. Elena straightened. You showed me that was wrong. That fighting back is possible. That one person can change an entire system. Elena, you don't have to. I know I don't have to. I want to. I want to be the person who stands up, the person who documents everything and refuses to quit. Elena smiled through her tears. I want to be like you. Maya pulled her sister into a hug, held on tight. Let herself cry for the first time since this whole thing started. I'm proud of you, she whispered. I'm proud of you too. A week after the verdicts, Maya received an invitation. Fort Meridian was holding a memorial service for Rodriguez, for Carpenter, for Chen. The 3 women whose bodies had finally been laid to rest with full military honors. Maya didn't want to go. The memories were too fresh, the pain too raw. But she went anyway, because some things were more important than comfort. The ceremony was held at the base chapel, standing room only, personnel from every branch, families of the victims, survivors who'd been harassed and finally felt safe enough to come forward. Maya sat in the front row, Vasquez beside her, Commander Vance on her other side. The chaplain spoke. Then the new base commander, a woman named Colonel Patricia Morrison, who'd been brought in specifically to rebuild Fort Meridian's shattered culture. Then it was Maya's turn. She walked to the podium, looked out at hundreds of faces, felt her throat tighten. "I didn't know Maria Rodriguez," she began. "I didn't know Sarah Carpenter or Jennifer Chen. I only knew them through their complaints, through the documentation they filed before they were silenced." She paused, gathered herself. They did everything right. They reported harassment through proper channels. They trusted the system to protect them, and the system failed, not because the system is inherently broken, but because people within it chose to break it. Maya's voice strengthened. Dylan Cross and David Richardson didn't act alone. They were enabled by silence, by people who saw what was happening and looked away, by a culture that prioritized convenience over justice, loyalty over integrity, reputation over truth. She looked at Vasquez, at Gerald, who'd made the trip from Arizona, at Private Hayes, who'd somehow gotten leave to attend. But cultures can change. Systems can be reformed, and it starts with individuals who refuse to accept the unacceptable, who document everything, who persist when persistence seems pointless, who stand up even when standing alone. Maya touched the podium, steadied herself. Maria Rodriguez filed her complaint 19 months before I arrived at Fort Meridian. Sarah Carpenter filed hers 15 months before. Jennifer Chen filed hers 11 months before. If anyone had listened, if anyone had investigated properly, if anyone had believed them when they said something was wrong. Her voice cracked. She let it. They would still be alive. They would be here today. They would be sitting in this room, maybe in this very seat, telling their own stories instead of being remembered through mine. She looked at the families. Rodriguez's mother clutching her daughter's photo, Carpenter's husband holding their 2 children, Chen's parents' faces carved with grief that would never fully heal. I can't bring them back. Justice can't bring them back. But I can make sure their deaths meant something, that the system that failed them changes, that the next woman who files a complaint gets listened to, gets investigated, gets believed. Maya straightened, let her voice carry to every corner of the room. I'm a Navy SEAL. I was trained to eliminate threats, but the greatest threat I ever faced wasn't an enemy combatant. It was institutional indifference. The assumption that harassment is just something women have to accept, that complaints are just paperwork to be filed and forgotten, that silence is easier than accountability. She shook her head. Silence is never easier. Silence is just delayed consequences. Eventually the truth comes out. Eventually the bodies are found. Eventually the system has to answer for what it allowed to happen. Maya looked directly at Colonel Morrison. Fort Meridian has a chance to be different now, to be a model for what military culture can become when leadership prioritizes integrity over protection, when complaints are investigated instead of buried, when women are believed instead of silenced. She paused one final time. Maria, Sarah, Jennifer, you deserved better. You deserved a system that protected you instead of protecting your abusers. I'm sorry we failed you, but I promise on my honor as a SEAL that your deaths will not be in vain, that the changes we make here will spread, that one day no woman in uniform will face what you faced." She stepped back from the podium. For a moment silence, then applause, starting slowly, building, growing, until it filled the chapel like thunder. Maya returned to her seat. Vasquez squeezed her hand. Vance nodded with something that looked like pride. The memorial continued. Songs, prayers, the folding of flags that would be presented to grieving families. When it was over, Maya slipped out the side door. Needed air, needed space, needed a moment to process everything she was feeling. She found herself at the spot where she'd first talked with Vasquez. The open ground between buildings where secrets could be shared without fear of being overheard. Footsteps behind her. She turned. A woman she didn't recognize. Mid-30s. Army uniform. Captain's bars. "Senior Chief Reyes." "Yes." "Captain Diana Walsh. I was stationed here 4 years ago, before Cross arrived." Maya waited. "I just wanted to thank you, for what you did, for what you said in there." Walsh's voice trembled. "I was harassed by a different contractor, back then. Filed a complaint, it went nowhere. I transferred out instead of fighting. I'm sorry that happened to you. I've spent 4 years wondering if I made the right choice, if I should have pushed harder, stayed longer, made them listen." Walsh met Maya's eyes. "Now I know. It wasn't my fault the system failed. It was the system's fault. And you proved that the system can be fixed. It's not fixed yet. No, but it will be, because of people like you." Walsh extended her hand. "Thank you, Senior Chief, for all of us." Maya shook her hand. "Stay in the fight, Captain. The system needs people who remember what went wrong." Walsh nodded, walked away, disappeared into the crowd of personnel leaving the memorial. Maya stood there for a long moment. Processing. 4 years. There had been harassment here for at least 4 years before Cross arrived. Maybe longer. Generations of women driven out, silenced, forgotten. The work wasn't done. Would never be done, really. There would always be predators. Always be people who abused power. Always be systems that prioritized protection over justice. But there would also always be people who fought back, who documented everything, who refused to quit. That was the balance. That was the battle. And it was a battle worth fighting. Commander Vance found her 20 minutes later. "Ready to go?" "Almost." Maya turned to face her. "Commander, what happens now? After the trials, after the memorial, what's my next assignment?" Vance studied her for a moment. "That depends on you. NAVSW has several options. You could return to training operations at Coronado. You could take a deployment rotation, or you could do this again. Different base, different target, same mission." Maya felt something shift in her chest. There are other bases like Fort Meridian. There are always other bases like Fort Meridian. Other contractors running operations. Other commanders looking the other way. Other women being harassed and silenced. Vance's voice hardened. "The system is vast. The problems are systemic. One victory doesn't change everything. It just creates opportunities for more victories. You want me to keep investigating. I want you to do what you do best. Go undercover. Document patterns. Build cases that can't be buried. Force the system to work even when it doesn't want to." Maya thought about it. About Rodriguez Carpenter Chen. About Elena re-enlisting. About Private Hayes watching with determined eyes. About every woman who'd ever filed a complaint and been ignored. I'll do it. You sure the work is dangerous, isolating? You'll spend most of your time pretending to be something you're not. I've been pretending my whole life. Pretending women can't be SEALs. Pretending women don't belong in combat. Pretending the system treats everyone fairly. Maya's voice strengthened. At least now I'd be pretending for a purpose. Vance nodded slowly. Report to my office Monday. We'll discuss the next assignment. Yes, ma'am. Vance turned to leave, then paused. Senior Chief, for what it's worth, you've made me proud. Not just as your commanding officer. As a woman who's spent 30 years fighting the same battles you're fighting now. Thank you, Commander. Don't thank me. Just keep winning. The drive back to San Diego took 4 hours. Maya spent most of it in silence, watching the desert give way to suburbs, give way to the ocean. Elena was waiting at Maya's apartment, had let herself in with the spare key, had cooked dinner, had set up a small celebration for a victory that deserved celebrating. How was it? Heavy. Maya set down her bag. But necessary. And the next assignment, another base, another investigation. Commander Vance asked me to continue the work. Elena's expression flickered. Pride mixed with worry. So you're going back undercover? As soon as there's a mission. Maya, Elena hesitated. Is this going to be your life now? Moving from base to base, hunting predators, putting yourself in danger. Maybe. For a while at least. What about a normal life relationships family? Maya smiled slightly. You're my family, and normal was never going to be in the cards for me. I'm a 22-year-old female SEAL with a black belt and a history of bringing down corrupt military commanders. Normal was never an option. I just worry about you. I know. But this is what I'm good at. This is what I'm meant to do. Maya took her sister's hands. Someone has to stand up. Someone has to document everything. Someone has to force the system to work. Why not me? Elena was quiet for a long moment. Then, why not you? They ate dinner, talked about Elena's officer candidate application, about the future, about everything except the darkness Maya had walked through and would walk through again. Later that night, Maya stood on her balcony looking out at the Pacific Ocean. The same ocean she'd trained in during Buds. The same water that had nearly broken her during Hell Week. She'd survived that. Survived everything the Navy could throw at her. Survived Cross and Richardson and a system designed to silence women like her. And she'd keep surviving. Keep fighting. Keep documenting until every predator knew that the cost of harassment was higher than they could pay. Her phone buzzed. Text from Vance. Assignment identified. Naval Air Station, Pensacola. Similar pattern to Fort Meridian. Deployment in 2 weeks. Confirm acceptance. Maya looked at the message. Thought about Rodriguez Carpenter Chen. Thought about Elena. Thought about every woman who'd ever been told to stay quiet. She typed her response. Confirmed. Ready when you are. Then she put down her phone and watched the waves roll in. The mission wasn't over. Would never be over, really. There would always be another base. Another predator. Another woman who needed someone to believe her. But that was okay. Because Maya Reyes was a Navy SEAL. She didn't quit. She adapted. She overcame. She persisted. And she had work to do. 3 months later, a young woman with oversized glasses and a messy bun reported to Naval Air Station, Pensacola. Her orders identified her as logistics support personnel. Administrative specialist. Nothing special. She carried a weathered notebook and wore gloves that covered scarred knuckles. The gate guard barely glanced at her paperwork before waving her through. Another base. Another mission. Another chance to prove that documentation defeated intimidation. That patience defeated aggression. That one person armed with evidence and an absolute refusal to quit could change everything. Maya Reyes smiled as she drove through the gate. The predators didn't know she was coming. They never did. And by the time they figured it out, it would already be too late, because silence wasn't weakness. Silence was strategy. And the evidence documented and undeniable would always speak louder than any threat, any intimidation, any system designed to protect abusers instead of victims. That was the lesson of Fort Meridian. That was Maya's legacy. And it was just the beginning.